And hello and welcome to Codebase Alpha on the early stream on a Wednesday. So good morning, good afternoon to wherever you are in the world. Let's have some music, shall we? Mr. Kerry, you're in the you're in the chat room. There's a disturbing ad. Oh dear, I'm sorry about that. Let's have some streaming music with some Relax Daily. We're going to need it today, I think. I've got a bit of a headache, to be honest with you, so hope we can get through this without the actual code being too much of a headache. So as you know, the plan today is to introduce GraphQL into the DevStreams project. And good afternoon, Coded Beard. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. But first, if you caught the end of last stream, then just a second. There we go. At the end of last stream, we had a few kind of issues with our Alexa project, and I figured that out after the stream. So it was a tweak to the query we need to make, and also a really kind of difficult issue that I found, which is blindingly obvious, really. When we were trying to convert the time zones using Node time, I was actually using a time zone which had quotation marks in it. And Node time was complaining about that until I realised and removed the quotation marks. So just to kind of round that off, I've got my echo here, and we'll just demonstrate that that's actually working before we start with the GraphQL stuff. So let's activate this. Okay, so we can start off with who's live now. Alexa, ask live coding, who's streaming now?
Codebase Alpha is broadcasting now.
Alexa, ask live coding, when is Dev Chatter streaming next?
Sorry, I could not find Jeff Chatter in my database of live coding streamers.
So I'll say that correctly now. Alexa, ask live coding, when is Dev Chatter streaming next?
Dev Chatter will be streaming next on Thursday, March 28th at 4 p.m.
So there we go. So the kind of two little functions we've got in there are actually working. So we can kind of put that project aside for a few streams. I think we all need a break from Alexa. Not least if it keeps popping up and saying it can't do stuff for us, but we're actually getting somewhere. So today's stream we're going to look at GraphQL. Now, GraphQL is an alternative to REST API, and it is really a way of having a query language to query data in JSON format against an endpoint in your application, either a standalone API or a website. Yeah, it's working great, Kerry. Yes, it's coming along well. Okay, so we're going to need some NuGet packages to get us started. What I thought we could do is, as you can see, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen at the moment in Visual Studio, the way that the application is split up, it's split up into various projects. So we've got a core project, we've got infrastructure for Dapper, infrastructure for databases, infrastructure for Twitch, we've got a unit testing project, and we've got our web project. So let's start off by creating a new project for GraphQL. So we'll add a project, and it's going to be a .NET Standard called class library, and we're going to call it devchatter dot devstreams dot, should we call it infra? I think we will, infra for infrastructure .GraphQL, and this is where we're going to put some of the shareable resources that we're going to create for our GraphQL project. Okay, just check the spelling of that. That looks okay. Let's create that. Okay, and what we're going to need in here, we can get rid of this class for now. What we're going to need in here are some NuGet packages. So let's get the GraphQL package in first. So let's go out to NuGet, and if we browse for GraphQL. Then we should find the package. There it is. Okay, GraphQL for .NET. So that's what we want. We'll install that. Now there are a couple of other packages we'll need when we start working within the web project. But what we're going to do first is to try and set up some of the basics in its own little project. Okay, so we've got that in place now. Okay, so I've got a diagram here which basically shows how this works. So this is the way that that GraphQL works. We can post data in or get data here with a HTTP request as normal. We're going to hit some middleware, which will be our GraphQL server. So this is going to be our server. So you'll have to excuse my terrible writing. We've got a schema here, and this is basically a description of our data. And we've got our database entities here, which this talks to the database here. So our CRUD layer, or our ORM, is going to bring in our entity data, and our schema here. So this in a traditional REST API would be your view models, but actually this is going to be a bit more because we're going to be describing the kind of queries that we can use, and we'll be building this schema up over the course of several streams. So this is where we're going to focus at the moment. We're going to try and define a schema, and once we've got the schema at least worked out at a very, very basic level, just for a very simple type of query, then we're going to introduce the server middleware, and we're going to give it a go and see what happens. So that's the plan, and we see how far we get doing that. It shouldn't take too long to get something basic working, and then we need to expand it and see what that takes us really. Okay, so within our project here, so our GraphQL project, let's create a new folder. So we'll add a folder and call it types. So this is where we're going to create our GraphQL types. Now GraphQL comes with a relatively rich set of built-in types, which we can leverage. There are some types which we have to create ourselves, but we'll do that later on. Ace Flames here, welcome. Good to see you. Good afternoon to you. Okay, so right. So if we look over in Core, we've got our models here, and you can see that the models consist of a channel, and the channel has scheduled streams. So we're going to concentrate on these two entities at the moment. So these are our data entities which are being brought back from SQL Server, in this case by Dapper, which is the ORM that we're using within DevStreams. So it's got the basic layout here. So we'll concentrate on channel first. So what we need to do is create a type within our GraphQL, which basically is a reflection of the channel type, which is the entity. So this is us building our schema up really. Okay, so we're going to need to actually link back to the core project in here. So let's add a reference back to that. So we need a reference back to core, and that should be enough for now. So we've got that reference. Within here we're going to add a class. This class is going to be the channel, and I'm going to put the word type after the channel because this is going to be our GraphQL equivalent of the channel model type. Okay, so let's create that. Okay, let's make it a public class. Now we need to inherit from some of the base classes that GraphQL provides us with. And in the case of an object like this, there's actually an object type graph. Actually graph type, sorry, which we're going to inherit from. So let's bring that in. So it's object graph type, and that is a generic type. So we need, this is going to be our channel. Spell that right. Okay. So we're going to need to fix up our usings. So bring in the model, and also bring in the GraphQL types. Okay, so let's get rid of these until we need them. Okay, so that's the basic outline of our GraphQL type that we've created to represent the channel, and this is how we're going to build our schema up. So we'll need eventually a GraphQL type like this for all of the types which are part of the DevStream database. So we've got channel permissions, channel roles, channel tags, schedule streams, stream schedules, and Twitch channel, that kind of thing. So we're going to need to have equivalents of those. So I think we'll just put channel back up so we can see that. Okay. So we're going to need to list out all the fields which are part of this type. So let's create a constructor, public channel type. Okay, and the way you list the fields out is simply using the field property. So we've got a field, and this takes basically a lambda, which is going to be representing. It's going to be pointing at the field within channel that this particular field represents. So if we start with F for field, if we hit F, we can see in here, if we dot after F, we've got all of the various properties which are part of the channel type. So if the channel model here, so here we've got name. So the ID is coming from the data entity, and then we've got name, URI, scheduled streams, country code, time zone, tags, and Twitch. So we're going to just take a few of these for now. We'll take the simplest one, so we'll take the strings and use those. So what we can do is actually describe, after this we can hit a dot, and then we can provide a description of what this field is. And one of the kind of advantages of GraphQL is that when we come to using the playground front end for it, it will actually give us IntelliSense, and actually we can display this documentation back to users of the front end. So this is the unique channel ID. Identifier, unique channel identifier. There we go. Okay, so we've got some more fields we can do. So let's have another field, and this, if we do our little lambda again, this is going to be the channel's name. Once again, we can pop a description on here, and this is going to be the name of the streamer channel. Okay, and then we've got other fields. The URI, yeah, well, not URI, and what should we say? The URL to access the stream on access the stream. Okay, that'll be enough. Let's go to channel. Thomas Hermanson, thank you very much for the follow. It's very kind of you. Wonderful. We're heading towards our follower goal, so thank you very much for that follow, and welcome to the stream. Access to the channel. Okay, and another field. Let's see what else we've got. What else have we got? We've got a country code. Let's have that. So description, the country of residence of the streamer. Okay, and what else have we got? We got field. I think we've got a time zone. Yeah, time zone. Is there anything else? scheduled streams. These are complex types. We're going to leave these for the moment. URI Twitch is another table, linked to another table, so we'll leave that for the moment as well. Let's keep it nice and simple. I describe this as well. The streamers, local time zone. Okay, so that gives us a basic type. We're going to expand this by, oops, that's ID there. There we go. We're going to expand this as we go through to try and add some more complexity. But let's get just these basic 5 fields to be produced by the GraphQL middleware for us. So let's move to the next part. So after we've set up a type, we need to actually define a query. So these are the queries that are available to the end user, and we should be able to define that query within our GraphQL project. So let's add a new class, and we're going to add this outside of the types, and we'll call this what should we call it? Dev streams query. Dev streams query. Yeah, let's there we go. Okay, make that public. Okay. So within this this class, it's very similar to defining the types, really, in that we have these fields again. So if we have a field, but this time let's actually bring in GraphQL. We'll wait till it asks us. So we can actually strongly type this, and the first thing we're going to do is get back multiple channels. We're going to ask for multiple channels, and then afterwards we'll add getting a single channel. Let's go all the channels in the database. Let's get all those back. So this is going to be a list of channels. So we could type list of channel type, but the list is. Could you just excuse me a second, please? Oh, many apologies for that. That was a phone call, and I need to take phone calls because my mother-in-law is quite elderly, and just often worry about her that a phone call could be some bad news. So where was I? Okay, so we could try and describe our field as a list of channel types, but we actually have to use the GraphQL types here, and there is a list graph type, and we need to use that. So let's bring in the missing using statements. So graph types, and our types that we've defined. So let's just finish that off so we don't get rid of the squigglies. Okay. Right. So we need to give our list a name. So we'll call it channels. So channels. Okay. So this is what we're going to be bringing back. We're going to be querying using the name channels, and we'll bring back a list of channel types. Okay. So we're also now expecting some more information here. So this is where it becomes a bit more involved. So we need what's called a resolver, and it's what the documentation recommends you do is actually name this field, so resolve, and we need to access a context object now and actually call a repo and get all of our channels back. So if we just have a context, and this is going to be what we want to write is repo.getAll channel. So that's what we want to be able to write. Okay. So what's it complaining about? The name field does not exist in the current context. Oh, that's right. So we need to make sure that we bring back from we inherit from the correct type, which is an object. If you remember last time we had an object graph type, this is an object graph type as well. Okay. So hopefully that will clear itself up. We need this should be a I'm very sorry, this should be a constructor. That phone call has thrown me. So dev streams query, and okay, there we go. Should be happy now. So we've got to go and get this repo though, because we haven't got one. So in the dev chatter project, we have up in the core we have an iCrud repository, which we should be able to bring in. We'll use dependency injection to actually inject that in. Hopefully that will work nicely. So in here we want an iCrud repository. Repo. Let's bring that in. So that's in our core data, and then we're okay. We're looking good now. Let's get rid of these superfluous usings. So now we have. So that's not channel type. That's channel. So this is going to get our actual type from our models. So this is going to bring back a channel model, and it's going to basically pop it inside a channel type, a list of channel types, and the name of this query is going to be channels. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is actually create our schema. So what should we do next? Okay, so we need a schema. So let's create that. So this will be dev streams schema. Okay. So this is a public class once more, and we're going to create a constructor public dev stream schema. And our schema needs to inherit from a type, a GraphQL type, which is going to be the schema type. Oops. Okay, so let's bring that in. So that's in our GraphQL types, as you can see there. And within here, we've got several properties which we can set, but the main one we want to set at the moment is going to be the query. So the schema is going to define which queries we're able to use, and the query is going to be our type DevStreams query. Okay, okay, so this is where I need to think about how we do this. So we need to bring in, we need to be able to resolve this. So let's rely on our dependency injection again. Our dependency resolver. Okay, we'll call that resolver. And we're going to also pass that resolver into the base class. Resolver. Okay, so we need to fetch that in. Okay, so we're going to resolve that, resolver.resolve, and we're going to resolve a devstreams query. The devstreams query, there we go. Okay. So what we're going to do, once we get our dependency injection all wired in, this is going to give us back a query that we can use, and the query that we've got set up is basically the channels query, and all the channels query is going to do is bring back all of the channels in the database. Stoolpenner, hello there. Rambling Geek, hello, welcome. Good to see you in the stream. So we've just really started out with the GraphQL implementation. So this is the .NET implementation of GraphQL. So what we've done so far, just to recap, we've created a new project, which is the devstreams infra GraphQL project, and this is where we're going to keep our kind of reusable components. We've created under the types folder, we've created a channel type, and this channel type is a basic mapping of the fields which exist in the channel model here. So we've left out the complex ones, not ones which are objects or which are lists of objects. We're just bringing back the string, basically the string and the int properties at the moment. And what we've done is map those across using this syntax. So this field is a field within our object type, and we've added some descriptive text. So we'll see that at work when we get the playground in place. So there's a little kind of UI playground which we can use to test everything. Okay, so I think we're pretty much set up. We've got an object which represents data. We've got a query called channels which gets all of that data, and we've got a schema. And the schema basically says use this query which we've defined. Okay, so we can get rid of that, I think. So now we need to go over to our devstreams web project and actually get some of these NuGet packages into there as well. So let's import those. Let's go over to manage NuGet packages. We're going to want to have GraphQL in here. Okay, so let's bring that in. Okay, we also want the components for a GraphQL server, and there's a couple of components we need. So if we search for GraphQL server, you can see we've got a number of them, but there's actually some transports here for ASP.NET Core. So we need to find that. There it is. So this is the HTTP middleware for .NET, ASP.NET Core for GraphQL. So we'll have that. And that's going to bring the server core in with it. So we notice that if we just lose this, you can see here that as well as the transport, it's brought in our core server, which is what we want. And we've also, the next thing we want is bring in the playground. So this is a little UI which we're about to use to test things. So let's bring that in. Rambling Geek, you're feeling a bit better? Oh, good. I'm glad of that because I know that you've been a bit run down recently, not too well. So you're in work, which is at least something. So yeah, get well soon there. Okay, let's bring in the playground. Okay. Okay. So we've got I think we've got all the components we need. So we need to go with it to our startup. Now over here, we're going to need to work in the configure services area. So let's add all these in just before the MVC. So remember, we're adding middleware. So the way that middleware flows, if you remember from the work we've done on the Alexa skill, the middleware basically the requests kind of flow through the middleware downwards in order, and then they flow back. So we want to intercept our requests before we get to the MVC layer, because we're not going to create a controller. We're going to process all of our GraphQL queries in middleware and then reflect them back, so they don't get as far as a controller. So this is a kind of departure from traditional REST APIs in .NET Core, where each of the endpoints is a controller. Okay, so let's add in GraphQL. So services, well, add GraphQL. We're going to need to bring that in. So that's in our GraphQL server. Okay, and what we can do in the options here is we can actually tell it if we want to show exceptions. Brendan, welcome. Welcome to the channel. You got sinus problems. You've been lurking. Okay, that's no problem, but good to see you. Glad you managed to make the stream. Okay, so we're adding the GraphQL, and we can set some options up so that we can actually see exceptions, and I think we probably want to do that. So we can say it's expose. So we need to create a lambda here. We call it options. Let's spell it right. And that is an object. Oops. We can say options dot, and there's an expose exceptions here. We'll set that to true for now, but I think what we're going to need to do is make sure that we only kind of show them, show the exceptions when we're in the development environment. In fact, we could probably do that now. So let's do that. Okay, so in our startup, we want the hosting environment. My hosting environment, and we'll call that env, and we'll have a private read-only, private split correct, private read-only my hosting environment env. Let's set env equal to env. Okay, and then down here we should be able to say env dot is development. So so that should mean that so what is development? What's wrong with that? Is development. Okay, fair enough. Okay, and as well as adding in the GraphQL, we also need to add the types in, because we're going to be working with the types. So we can also here add GraphQL types. There we go. So that's our GraphQL server options adding into the services. What we need to do is actually use those. So as usual, we pop down to the configure method, and once again, just before the use MPC, you're going to have to reboot your PC, Rambling Geek. So yeah, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so this is going to be app, and we should have a use for this. So remember, there's the kind of convention is that there's an extension method which is provided when you have this middleware to actually bring in the GraphQL, and we'll bring in the middleware. So there we are. So we bring that in, and this is a generic type. So if we look over here, we're expecting we're expecting a graphic. Let's see we are expecting. We're expecting a T schema, so we're expecting to have our schema in here, which is the dev streams schema, which we're not going to have yet. So let's bring that in. So that's we're going to need to set a dependency on the GraphQL project that we just created. So let's bring that in. And yeah, we're going to use the infra QL there, so we're going to add that in. And I think that we need to give a path that goes to where our GraphQL endpoint is going to be, and it's going to be, we'll use the default there with /GraphQL. So let's put in there, we'll just be explicit with that, and that'll be /GraphQL. Okay, and the other piece that we brought in was the playground, so let's use that. So use GraphQL. So we need to have a using statement for this. I think it's called the GraphQL playground. Codder, thank you for the follow. Wonderful. We're nearly 3/4 away to the target, so that's fantastic. Thank you very much for joining the stream, and a very warm welcome. Okay, so yeah, GraphQL playground. So we did bring the playground in, so let's see if we've got a using statement we can have for that. Using GraphQL dot UI, was it? Did we bring it in? Sure we did. Let's have a look to make sure. Yeah, so we got server UI playground. There we go. Server UI playground. Okay, that should be a bit happier. Use GraphQL playground. So we should be able to resolve this now, and this has got to have basically a path as well. So so what does it take? So it takes an object of type GraphQL playground options. So new GraphQL playground options, and I think it's going to be a path, and the path can be /UI/playground. That's what it seems to. That kind of matches the namespace /UI/playground. I think that's fairly standard. I think the other implementations I've seen do that. Just checking the chat. Yes, so thank you, Codder. If you haven't joined our Discord, please do so. So there's a link there. Nightbot's just posted a link to the Discord. It's fairly quiet over there, but the more people that join, the more conversation can go on. If you like space and rockets and SpaceX and things like that, then I'm a bit of a rocket and space nut, so there's some conversation goes on about that, and also whenever there's a launch or an exciting space event, you do tend to get a bit of kind of running commentary. Sorry, Brendan. I've got Nightbot set up to be the most aggressive it possibly can be. It timed you out because you posted a link, so I'm very sorry about that. But eventually, when I get some human mods, we can kind of tone that down a bit. But it is in its most vicious at the moment. It means I don't have to worry too much about moderating the channel, and I can actually concentrate on the coding. But it can be very annoying. So in fact, I'm surprised actually, as you're a VIP, it didn't let you post. So I'll sort that out so that VIPs can post links. Yeah, let's look at that in a bit. Okay, so we've got that. Now, the other thing we need to do, back here, where was it? It was in our schema. We wanted a dependency resolver, so we need to kind of push one of those in. Okay. Okay. And also, it's going to want to resolve this DevStreams. No, we're going to have to resolve the schema, aren't we, in the startup? So let's go back to our services. So let's just make a note for GraphQL. So services. Add a scoped and scoped, and this is going to be our dependency resolver. Bring that in. There's a GraphQL type. Bring that in, and that's going to be we're going to create get required service. So that should be so it's new, is it? So let's bring that in. We got a namespace missing. No. Okay, so actually it's that's not exactly what we want then, is it? So let's give this some thought. So we want. So you're asking what we're doing there, Coda. So I'll just. So we're not doing that. So I haven't updated my working on. So what we're doing is we're adding GraphQL to the DevStreams project, which is a community website that is being built over on the Dev Chatter stream. So Brendonius is actually in the chat. He is building this, and we are creating basically a GraphQL endpoint for it. And this is going to be a PR that basically goes into that project. So let's go and have a look at see if we can find anything. GraphQL.net high dependency resolver. Okay. Dependency injection. Oh, here we are. So it's suggesting adding the singleton on the scope. So let's do that. Just grab that line of code. Okay. We've got that. And I think we need to bring our schema in as well. So we'll try and add scope to that as well. Add scoped DevStreams schema, and that is going to be all we need to do, I think. Oops. I'll get rid of that. Okay, so we've got a dependency resolver in now, and that should take care of injecting that in for us. We've got it so that dependency injection can also handle the DevStream schema. And we've injected that. We've got that available in the services. So let's have a quick look at chat. So Codder, I see GraphQL everywhere now. I haven't worked on it personally. You're a DevOps engineer and you're curious to see how people are using it and spot patterns that make me predict needs for the devs. Yeah, so we just kind of, this is the very first time that I've used it, which is why there's a bit of hesitation. I've did a bit of research on it, and obviously until you actually use it properly in anger, then you tend to forget some of the implementation details. But I think we're in a position now where we should be able to have a look at this. We've got all the basic pieces in place. Our dependency injection is set up. Our middleware is configured here. We'll soon find out anyway if we don't get anything working. Let's try it out. Where are we? So we're about 50 minutes into the stream and we're ready to start having a look. So okay, Koda, so if you've got to leave, that's great. So thank you for popping in. Now I'll just pop a YouTube command into chat. If you want to catch up on YouTube for previous broadcasts, then go there, and this stream will be available on demand for the next 60 days on Twitch, so you better pick it up from there as well. I think it's 60 days for me because I'm a Twitch Nitro, so yeah, 60 days. So do pick it up, but also pop across to YouTube and subscribe there, so you'll get notified when new videos get uploaded to YouTube as well. Yeah, see you soon, Coda. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let's give this. It's pity you're actually leaving because we're about to fire it up and probably watch it fall flat. But let's have a look. Let's start up the project. Okay. Oh, well, it ran. So let's go across to it was UI Playground. Let's see if we get our GraphQL Playground. So we didn't. Oh, I misspelled it. That's why. Okay, we've got some hope. We've got some hope. So that's a mega derp. But that's me in spelling. Anyone who has seen me in chat, I can't spell for toffee sometimes. Oh, yeah, we had it then. What happened? Okay, we've crashed out here. No service type. No service type of that. Oh, query. Got to register the query as well. Okay, that's fair enough. Let's stop. And up here, we'll do the same as the schema. We'll put the query in as well. Okay. What's that saying? Okay. Ed Charbonneau, welcome to the stream and thank you so much for the follow. That's really, really kind of you. I have watched some of your streams lurking in the background, so welcome to Codebase Alpha. We're working on GraphQL. Don't take notice of what Codebase Alpha bot has said up there. If you can see the chat, we're actually working on GraphQL. We're not working on the Alexa skill today. We're taking a little bit of break from Alexa, and we're adding GraphQL into Brendan's DevStream's community website. So we've just got to a stage where we're trying to fire up the playground. We've got a very, very basic query in place that just brings back all of the streamer channels that we've got in the database. So very warm welcome, Ed. Good to see you. Okay, let's give it another go. Fire it up. And we want UI Playground. Oops, I'll be falling over again. Invalid operation cannot resolve scope service from root provider. Okay, let's have a look. Add graph types. Maybe that's it. We didn't say what the service lifetime of that was, did we? Let's give that a go. If not, we're going to have to. No, it doesn't like it. So we've got a query. We've got a query resolver. We can't recall dev streams query. So we have to hit the documentation again, aren't we? So let's see an example. So we've got the dependency resolver. So I think so we could possibly try the same thing there. Our Schema, Star Wars schema. It doesn't sound particularly useful, but we can try it again. Let's set this up as being scoped as well. Dependency injection, this is where I do need to be a bit cleverer. You're right. It's probably going to fall over again, isn't it? So let's give it a go. Oh. It says server cannot be reached there. Yeah, certainly got nothing here. Okay, invalid character position 1. This is the name of our query. We're getting nothing. We're getting nothing and no help back. Server cannot be reached. Okay. So the server was at GraphQL. Okay. So what's this say? Search dependency injection. Able to resolve service of type. Deactivate. So we're trying to resolve service of type devstream schema while attempting to activate the default graph executor. So interesting. GraphQL So default graphics, Qt, dev chatter streams, GraphQL, dev streams, schema. So we should be able to see that, shouldn't we? Let's just lose that for a second. So they're bringing the query in there. They've brought the schema in. So this is where the channel kind of starts to grind to a halt. This is where we were on Carey's stream at one point, where trying to think about what to do, and it's kind of where you want to start playing around and just trying stuff. But on a stream, doesn't tend to be that productive if you're not careful. So we've got those are the basic components that it looked like we needed. And we're using our middleware here. DevStream schema, GraphQL. We've got the playground in that position. So it's complaining about this one, wasn't it? But there it's got a path to it. Let's run it again and see what the error is. Yeah, so Brendan, I think this is all to do with, it's all connected with how I've wired things up, and I'm just wondering if I need to simplify it and bring things into the web project for now and see if that, because it seems to be complaining about the schema, but the schema is, so it says unable to resolve service type but dev chatter streams schema. Okay, well let's so if we go by the example here, it looks like we're doing everything we need to do, isn't it? So they're bringing in a user context. We don't need a user context at the moment. We don't need that because we're doing the use GraphQL. Okay, let's just have a fiddle around and see what we can find. So I do apologise that we seem to have hit a bit of a brick wall, but these things are what happens on live coding, and I think sometimes it makes live coding a bit more interesting to watch, but it gets to a point where you see someone just struggling and it's not it gets to be a bit cringeworthy after a while. So let's just have a play around with what we've got. So we still got a problem. Yeah. Yeah. So we definitely need the brackets. And we put in the name of the thing we want to query. So we get an error. Oh, we get an error this time, so that's good. So it's saying no service for type has been channel type has been registered. No service for the type channel type has been registered. So do we need to do the same? Do we need to inject channel type in as well? So let's give that a go. Stop this. So that's in our GraphQL types location. Let's start it up again. Ah, so it's gone away from there. Field channels of type must have a subsection. Okay. We're getting some. Now we're getting some IntelliSense of a sort. So name. So let's run that. We've got it working. So just needed to register channel type with the dependency injection, and there we are. So it was having trouble just obviously figuring out how to resolve. They said it was the query, and the query, yes, so it's got this channel type in here. So presumably it was having difficulty with that. Okay, well, let's have a play and see what we can do. So this is our playground, and we can write our queries in here. So if we want country code, and we want time zone, and we can run our query now. And there we go. So these are all the channels we've got in the database upon Azure, and we've got the country and the time zone coming out. Well, how's about that then? That's the result. So I'm going to have a sup of orange squash. Yes, Ed, I mean, I've got plenty of experience of solving problems, but solving them live while people are watching is something else, as you probably know yourself. But yes, watching people work through issues, even if it's in a seemingly random way, people are normally kind of following some kind of methodology, and you can see there we actually didn't manage to find the errors. And we can solve all these things, and eventually the system told us what to do. So the story about with the Alexa skill on the end of episode 11, we was having difficulty with the time zones. Michael Jolly, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. As I say, we was having trouble with time zones, and off stream I was working on trying to resolve that. And I found that we were trying to get the node time zone out of the time zone database, and it said that the actual exception said that there was no time zone called Europe/London. Yet if I actually physically typed hard-coded Europe/London into the time zone database accessor, the indexer, it came back, no problems. And after a long time, I finally realised that the string I was using for the time zone, which was coming back from Alexa, the string had quotation marks around it. And the exception actually had the quotation marks in it. I didn't twig for the longest period. Actually, it was giving me the literal string that I was trying to query on. I was trying to use as a indexer. And not just being helpful and showing that it was a string by putting quotes around it. So yeah, so that kind of thing. Unfortunately, happened off stream, but eventually you do kind of you do get that the error messages that these systems produce will eventually guide you the right way. 95% of the time, there are 5% of those errors which are either misleading or actually unhelpful. I think there was a short discussion on one stream or maybe on Discord about the null reference exception, how it doesn't give you a clue at what the object was that was a null reference. If it just give you the slightest clue, that would be great. So Ed, what do you say? It's had a similar issue with the Azure machine language. It was formatting a bool as true, which isn't valid JSON. Yes. So yeah, these things are sent to try us as developers, and I guess it's all part and parcel of being a developer. And if more people watch the streams, then they get kind of exposed to various techniques for tracking these problems down. We all have our own way, so there's not one correct way, but usually a reasonably logical way of going about it. Okay, so let's stop this now. So let's build up our query a bit more. So okay. So I'm just looking at my notes, see what we should do next. So I think the best thing to do is to look at bringing back the streamer's schedule as well as their stream information, their channel information. Okay, so let's go over to core, and in core we have models, we have scheduled streams. So this basically has the day of week, the local start time and the local end time for the schedule. It's also got some more complex types on there. It's got this list of sessions, and we won't deal with that. We're just going to get back, I think, this information here. So the time zone ID, which we've already got, but we'll get again. The day of week, the local start time, the local end time. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to create a. So let's just bring that back up over here and get rid of channel. So this is scheduled stream. So over in our GraphQL project, we need to add a new type. So we've got our channel type here. We need a new type. So we'll add a class, and we call it scheduled stream type. It was called scheduled stream, wasn't it? Yeah, scheduled stream type. Okay. And let's make that public. So I've got a few notes in front of me just to kind of guide me about the kind of flow of trying to get the stream to actually take, but we will probably get distracted from this. So it's just got a few steps that we need to kind of try and follow. So let's create this class next. So this is going to be once again, it's an object graph type. So this is a GraphQL type, and that's going to be, it's going to reference a scheduled stream, which is the model, the model which we're using in the database. We're going to need to bring in a namespace there, GraphQL types. And we're going to also need to bring in the namespace of our model, which is in the core library. Okay, and we need a constructor. Okay, so in a very similar way to before, we need to define the fields that are going to appear in here. So the field is brought in by the GraphQL types, It's part of this object graph type, and basically we use multiple of these to define all of the fields that we've got. So we've got an ID, and we can put a description on here again, as I say. So this is the scheduled stream unique identifier. So you'll notice that actually if you go to scheduled stream, you can't see an ID on here, but the ID is actually coming from data entity, as we're subclassing off of data entity, and that contains the ID. Okay, field. What else have we got? We've got the channel ID, description of that, channel ID, and then we've got another field. Spell it right. So we got a field which is going to be day of week. So description, the day of the week with Monday. I think it starts at Monday. We'll just say the day of the week at the moment. The field which is going to be start time. So local start time. So description, the start time of the stream in the streamer's local time zone. And let's just copy that whole line. And just pop that down here. No, oh, we don't need that or that. Okay, this is going to be the end time. This is going to be the local end time. Okay, now we've got a semicolon there, we don't need that bracket. Typing again, you see. And there was one more, which was the time zone. So we're including that because we might not query the time zone on the channel itself. We might want to query it on each of the schedule streams, because they give flexibility for how people want to use our API. So the idea of GraphQL is that we don't say to the consumers of our API how they're going to use the data, or what structure the data is going to be in. The structure is going to reflect the query. Actually, there's a few cool things you can do, which I'll show you if I remember once we get this working. So this is the streamer's local time zone. Okay, so we'll learn our lesson from struggling just before, and we'll actually make sure that we create that as well in the dependency injection framework. That was scheduled stream type. Okay, and over here, so over here, what we want to be able to do is to have a list of scheduled streams, don't we? So this will be a field again, and this field is going to be a list. So this one is list graph types again. So it's a list of scheduled scheme types, scheduled stream types, sorry. And we need to give it a name. We'll call it schedule. So the word schedule doesn't really occur in the database. It's actually a scheduled stream type or scheduled stream, but we're going to be able to access it through the schedule, the name of schedule. Rumbling Geek, you're leaving the office now. Okay, thank you for joining the stream, and we'll see you on your next stream, hopefully on Friday. So you never know, when you get home I might still be on, but I'm not planning to be. I'm planning to kind of finish around about 1800 hours my time, but we'll see. Okay. Where were we? So we created a name, so we're going to be able to query based on a name of schedule. Now we need to actually resolve that, and the resolve is going to be, we're going to need the context, and we're going to what are we going to do? We're going to so where do we get our schedules from? So there's a scheduled stream service here which has got get channel schedule on it, and that's going to give us a list of scheduled streams back. So that sounds a lot what we want. Okay. So let's inject that service into our type. Scheduled stream service. Scheduled stream. So if we inject that in, let's bring in the namespace for there, which is core services. And here we should be able to say scheduled stream service dot get channel schedule, and in there we need to pass in the identifier. So I think that's going to be on the context. Seem to remember there's a source. There we go, and then we have the ID. So that's basically within the context of this query, then we're going to get this ID here and populate it into there, and we need another bracket there. Okay, so that's going to bring back all of the schedules for each one we query. And that is going to be inefficient, because every time we get a channel it's going to query the database. So we need to address that, and there is a way of addressing that, and I'm not sure if we'll get this far in the stream. I've got a note on my notes here talking about caching, and GraphQL does have a caching system that comes with it, which we'll try and look at, hopefully try and import that and use it today. Otherwise we'll do it the next stream. Let's give this a go and see if this actually works and see what happens. Okay. Right. Okay, we've fallen over straight away. Okay, so it says there's a system argument exception. The GraphQL type for field day of week on parent type scheduled stream type could not be derived implicitly. Okay, so let's stop straight away and see what that means. So I was hoping this part of the this part of the string we're going to be very straightforward, and we'd kind of leave on a high, and we'd have we've got a simple query going. We've got a slightly more complicated query where we get bringing back schedules as well, but obviously it wasn't to be. Let's just clear those using statements up. Okay, so schedule stream. So here's the problem. So when we're dealing with ints and strings, GraphQL is happy because they're kind of basic built-in types. It knows all about them. But these are day of week, ISO day of week, local time, and local time. You can see if I hover over them, these are node time. They're node time types, and GraphQL doesn't know anything about node time. So I think so let's go. I'm sure there was something that was done in Dapper. So yes, here in Dapper, I seem to remember the stream. Brendan created some type handlers for local time. So this is so that SQL knew what to, so Dapper and SQL knew what to do with them. So we're going to need to do something similar for GraphQL. So we're going to need some custom types. Okay, well let's look at our friend the internet, see what the interwebs have to say for us. So what can we type in? Node time GraphQL. Support for node time GraphQL. Okay. So it's saying support for node time type conversions to corresponding scalar values, at least the major ones like local date, local time, instant. So this is a it's a closed issue, so we've got some hope that this has been done then. Let's go to the end and see what it says. Okay, what's it say here? So there's you can register new types in your schema. Register types. Okay, we need to do that. And we need to create some types. There's a gist down here. Let's go look at that. Oh no, it's actually a repository. Node time types. Oh, this looks like we've hit pay dirt here. ISO day of week graph type. Golden. So it's a new type of ISO day of week graph type which inherits from scalar graph type. Okay, well let's do it. Let's go for it. Wow. Okay. So in our types over here, we want to create a new class. So this is going to be ISO day of week type. Graph type. Graph type, is that what they called it? Yeah. So this is to distinguish it from a type which is mapping a part of our model. This is mapping. This is providing a new type for GraphQL to understand. Okay. Let's try grabbing the code out of here. So we need to inherit from scalar graph type, and we need to get that namespace in, and then we can presumably implement that. Okay, so we need parse literal, parse value, and serialize. So is serialize. Put that in there. I'm going to tidy that a bit. I like to have curly braces around things. I don't mind the multiple returns, but curly braces, I don't like having statements on one line. So we need to bring in noda time for that. Noda time. Okay. And then we've got a parse value. Bring that in. Parse value. Curly braces once more for my peace of mind. And finally there was a parse literal. Parse literal. Yeah. Curly braces. And going in chat. Perexian, welcome to the channel. Good to see you. Good to see you. I will not like Python. Why? What won't I like about Python? Perexian, is it curly braces? Hasn't got any. No braces. Yeah. I'm afraid. Yeah. I've done a bit of F#. I was inspired by Gareth Hubbell's channel to do a bit of F#. The indentation model leaves me a bit cold, to be perfectly honest. I think I'm just too used to the C style now. But it is interesting to use indentation as your way of creating blocks. And I did write a Slack library in F# on the back of that, which is interesting. There's a long way to go to actually finish it off, but it is a working library. Just enable you to communicate with Slack through F#. So I was quite pleased by that. And I guess it can be quite elegant. I do like the richness of operators they have, but they seem to go overboard with creating custom operators and all over the place. So there's lots of weird kind of symbols that kind of happen. I like the pipe operators. They're interesting, but all the custom operators that people create, they're a bit confusing. Okay, so we've got that one. So let's build that. Let's make sure we build okay, which we do. I hope, almost. Yes, we built. So the other one we want would be the this is a gold mine, this one. So we need the local time graph type. Right, someone's done all hard work for us. I'm glad we found this. Okay, so this is local time graph type. So let's go to another thing in our types here. New class. Call it that. Local time graph type. Public. And it inherited from was it scalar? I can't remember. It inherited from scalar graph type. Bring that in, and then we can implement the abstract class. Okay. And let's bring in each individual method. So here's the Serialize method. Let's grab that. Lots of no curly braces in this as well. So what's Hamel? Sounds like something like Star Wars. I've got my Star Wars. They can't see it, can you? I've got my Star Wars T-shirt on today. Serialize, that was. What's HAML? Is that the machine learning thing, Ed? So let's just tidy this up to my liking. We need to bring in some of these noda types. That's going to be system globalization, and let's close these up. An indented HTML syntax, HAML. Oh, without brackets. Oh well, yeah, okay. So that's what's the other one? There's YAML and TOML and all these things, isn't there? Actually, yeah, I'm not sure about HTML syntax without the angle brackets in it. I can imagine that might be a good way of making a lot of errors, because at least you can have an editor which matches your your angle brackets up for you. But at least somebody must have found a use for it. They wouldn't have created it. So this is pass value. Let's grab that. I'm sorry you're watching cut and paste programming on Codebase Alpha. But sometimes this is what we want to do, and I'm doing it kind of bit by bit so we can do a bit of tidying up as we go along. Let's go over here. Okay. That's the try and there's the catch. Let's have the separate line. Use a swallowing exception. Okay, fair enough. It's popular in Ruby HAML, so I've never looked at Ruby. I think actually in the previous job I installed Ruby on Rails and got it to say hello world, and then I didn't actually have a use for it at the time, so I never went any further with it. So I've not used Ruby. There's so many technologies that I should probably go out and use, but it's a matter of finding a use for them, and I guess these streams are a good way of doing that. So HAML is the HTML abstraction markup language. It's based upon the principle that markup should be beautiful. Yeah, I don't think that's not like number one priority, is it really? It should be, I guess it should be readable, but I think it should be kind of machine parsable, and it should. Do they have editors? Does it come with a way of validating that your markup is correct? I guess it must do, based upon the indentation rules. Okay, so that's that. And I noticed that this actually does have a constructor. So let's grab the constructor, and we'll grab the constructor for the other one as well, because it looks like that provides some documentation. So the constructor goes in here. We get an attribution for this. So let's put some documentation in here. Let's grab that as well. And go to our day of week class. And there was a constructor for that as well. I said day of week. Yeah, it's just, we might as well have that because it does give you a bit of documentation. That's in there. Okay, we'll leave those there. Scheduled stream types, that's that. And it said we had to register these types with the schema. So we have register types on there. So how did it say to do it? Let's get it back. So it was a new array of that. Is it as simple as that, I wonder? So local time graph type, and day of, is it called ISO day of week? Graph type. Does he not? Okay. Oh, semicolon. Right, okay, fair enough. New array. What's it saying? Yes. Yes. So Ed, you tripped over this Hamel stuff, is that what you're saying? Yeah. So we've got an array. That's a day of week graph type. Did we call it that? We did. ISO day of week graph type. Local time graph type. Local time graph type, that's there. We brought our types in. Oh, register types. Yeah, that's what it said, wasn't it? Register types, not register type. Register types, yes. My spelling again. Okay. Well, what do we do, viewers? Do we try? Do we give that a go? I suppose we should. We'll give it a go. What else can go wrong? Okay, let's bring up our playground. Yeah, so we can't reach the server, so there's obviously an error. No service for type. Okay, so we forgot to include those in our dependency injection, so let's go and do that. So got slightly ahead of ourselves there, so let's go and do that. So let's close these down for a second. Stream, and we want to go back here, and these are all our types. So let's copy this. It's a shame we have to do all these. A lot of things in the ISO day week graph type. Lots of things in the configure services. What was it? Local time graph type. Maybe there's a way of. We probably should hive all this off into its own configuration piece. So there should be a configure services GraphQL or something like that. Maybe we'll look at that at some point. Let's just try and get this working for now. Okay, let's give it another go. Okay, it's 4 over here. Okay, so oh, okay, fair enough. So it can't. So we got to tell it because we can't work it out on its own. We've got to actually tell it. Okay. So there's another. So there's another format of the field. So over on our here we actually had this format field and a type. So over here is where we want to go. So let's just copy this up here. Move it from there. Okay, so field ISO day of week graph type. So we'll use the same kind of syntax as we used here. So we gave it a name, which we'll just stick with the same name as the actual data, which is local start time. Okay, then we have to resolve that. We're just labeling the parameter here. So this resolve doesn't do anything particularly, just labeling the parameter. So we know what that is. And then we had a context, and that was, and then we wanted the source, and that was on the context, and that was day of week. Okay, let's just get that done for the other two fields. So we had local datetime, graph type, and then there was so this was day of week, wasn't it? Not the local start time. This was end time. And this was day of week, and this was local start time. And this was local end time. So what else we got on here? Okay, so we've got the name. It looks like we can have a description. So can we get a description in here? String name, string description. Then the function, which is our resolver. Okay, fair enough. This was this description here, and this description. So yeah, so we've managed to use two different types of the field, two different formats of the field. So where it looks like where you've got a primitive type like an int or a string, you can get away with this field mapping. But as soon as we've wandered away from that, we've had to go to this different form when we tell it explicitly what the type of the field is, and then we've obviously provided with a way of converting that into a scalar type. So let's give it a go. Where are we time wise? So we've been going about an hour and 45 minutes, so that's not too bad. Okay, we've connected to the server, and our query still works. So what you can do here, you can change the names of these things that come back in your query in the answer. So we've changed country code to country and time zone to TZ for US folks. So this means basically that with GraphQL we can tailor the data we get back from GraphQL as we wish. So if we want to call it country and TZ, we can do. Okay, so we have a schedule, look, and that's going to be another object. So from here we can get the day of week, local start time, and the local end time. So, do we dare press the button? Should have a poll, shouldn't I? Yes or no? I think everyone's going to say yes. Let's press the button, see what happens. Oh, look at that! Unfortunately, we're getting numbers back, so we can probably do with sorting that out in our ISO day of week. So I think that must be Monday, because that's the first day that Jeff Chatter broadcasts. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. There's Codebase Alpha. There's NoopCat and Gareth Streams, Rambling Geek, which we haven't got any schedules for. Thank you very much for the bits, Kerry. That's very kind of you. Yes, it deserves a bit of cheer. So we have a. In fact, let's have this is our stream deck. Let's have some applause. The other thing we could have would be this. I don't know if you heard that, but maybe it was a bit quiet, but that was inconceivable. So thank you for the bits, Kerry. That's so very kind. Yes, you deserve cheer, I think, isn't it? Wow. I didn't think we were going to find this. Finding this was gold, wasn't it? So this person here deserves our thanks. Shoo. They've actually solved our problem for us. And what we probably should do, while we're in here, is probably should grab all their other types that they've got, because we could we do use instance. So I think what we'll do is we'll grab their instant type. What I'll do is just grab the whole class. Just save a bit of typing. And we'll bring that in, because I know that we do have. I think that's right, Brendan. If you're still in the chat, we do use instant in the database, and I think that is. I think instants are the actual scheduled, the actual kind of stream times in UTC, which we build up in the database. I'll show you that. But let's get this instant type in, because I think that would be useful and save us having to do this in the future. So this would be instant graph type. And I'll just pop that code in there. Oh, great. So I said less typing, but we've still got plenty of typing, haven't we? Let's bring the namespaces in first. And do some tidying up. I'll come back. Oh, I'll come back and do those. Sorry about my obsession with curly brackets. There. I also have this need to put a space before and after if statements. Has anyone else got these kind of little idiosyncrasies with their code? And must drive my team mad actually when in the code reviews I say, can you go through and put spaces in and blank lines? And I think everyone's bought into the curly braces, but probably not everyone into making sure there's just the one blank line as well. And also like a blank line before a return statement. It's silly what we do. It's slightly more complicated, this one, isn't it? And oops, and hit the last one here. Oops. This is a bit paint dryish, but I'm sorry about that. But oh, I've got to have me try catch them properly as well. Do it like that. Oops. So this is a bit, adding this type is a bit like anticipation of possible needing it. It's a bit of Yagni, I suppose, but I think because we do use instance in the database, it makes sense to bring this in now, and I won't forget that we've got it. It'll just be a matter of creating the fields correctly. And oops, we'll put our attribution in as well because I'm so grateful to Shoo for doing this. Okay. Let's go grab the attribution and put that into that file as well. So, return parser composer. We missed that namespace. Oh no, we haven't got one. What's he using for that? Parser composer. Some text, do you think? Some text is already in. We've got language AST and GraphQL types. At the time, system globalization system. We've got all those bits and pieces in there. Return parser composer. But it's got a helper, hasn't he? Sure, I saw a helper. Utilities, parser composer. Okay. So what does that do? Do I really want to just copy code that? I suppose we can just copy it for now. Let's copy it for now, and then we'll have to work out. I'll have to have a look at that, what it does. Tend to, rather than copying code blindly from the internet, it's always a good idea to. So we'll copy it over and have a good look at it. We'll see what it's doing. So let's create a folder for helpers. And we'll create we'll add a new class. What's it called? Sorry, my memory. Parser composer. Not really sure what it means, but we'll try. Parser composer. Okay, let's stick that in there. So we can clean this up pretty quickly. Okay, let's just fix up that. And that one. Need to bring in a bit of link. So let's have a look at this. So first, non-throwing. So it takes in a function of string and t, which is your parser, and a string value. If there aren't any parsers, it returns null, and it tries different parsers until it manages to actually. It's the throw basically. Oh, this is logic by throwing, logic by exceptions. Hubmeister, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Hope you had a good day at work. Try catch continue. Yes, it's not good, is it? Don't like that. Don't like it, don't like it. Flow control by throwing exceptions. Let's have a look what it's trying to do. So once the first non-throwing, it's going to it's passing in an array of parsers. So is it an offset pattern? Is it a offset? Is it an offset date time pattern with culture invariant, or is it instant pattern? Oh, dear me, don't like it. That's from string. So what if I get rid of that? And do I satisfy the scalar type? I do. Oh no, it uses from string there. So if value is a string value, then parse it out. So is Brendan? Brendan, are you in the chat still? Are you lurking? We had a nightmare with the CMS, Adam. Oh dear. Yeah, it's got GraphQL, has it? Yeah, you did say it had a GraphQL endpoint. Have you tried using it? So that's Orchard CMS that we are looking into at work as a way of enabling end users to provide text in our web application, rather than having every time they change their mind on the text, having a developer have to go in and change resource files. I don't like Parser Composer. So we're passing a value, an object in, and we're saying if the value is a date time. So I don't know if it's, Brendan obviously isn't in the chat, so I was going to ask his advice about. I don't think we're holding these things as strings. These instants. So if it's an instance, we're returning instance pattern. If it's a date time, we're doing a date time to string of culture invariable. Well, I think it's going to be an instant. You know, I'm tempted just to get rid of this. This stuff here where we're looking at if it's a string value. Because this is just like, it's just gobsmacking the not what I want to put into the project. Okay, I'm getting rid of it. Let's get rid of the helper directory as well. So we got serialize. Let's lose that. Let's lose these options. Removed. What do they call it? A parser comparer. Parser composer. And string values as implementation. So that means we might have to come back and revisit this if we do find that that it doesn't work with our database. But I'm pretty sure instants are, yeah, it depends how they're in the database, doesn't it really? How they're brought back. Let's go and have a quick look in core. Model. So stream sessions. These are instants. And instance. How do we deal with instance? We should in Dapper have our type handlers, our instant handler. So that is handling it as a date time there, and set value, and pass. It does Unix ticks, date time or date time offset, so it doesn't do a string. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're not storing instance in a way that's going to cause us a problem. Let's do a build and make sure everything's happy. And we've forgotten one thing. We need to add that into our startup class. Let's add it in there, even though we're not using it yet. I think it's available to us. So that was the instant graph type. There we go. Okay, so let's just run it up again. Make sure everything still works. No reason it shouldn't do. And I think we're now just past 1800 hours UTC, so I think we'll finish up. I've just got the phone is ringing, so I'm just going to put you on Be Right Back. So please do bear with me. Oh, apologies for that. It was just the window cleaner. It wasn't an emergency. So I do apologise for having to pop off that with the situation with my mother-in-law. I do need to be a bit careful with those phone calls. Okay, so there we go. So it's still working. So the only thing I wanted to do, just to kind of finish off, just check my notes again. I think it was just set it up so we could bring back just a single channel. At the moment we're getting everything back, so let's just do that and then we'll close the stream. Don't want to do that. Let's get rid of all these playgrounds. So that's quite a useful website. We'll earmark that in a moment. So over on our query, let's close a few of these things down. Add query here. We want to be able to bring back a single channel. So currently we've got this field set up so we can bring back a list graph type of channels. We need to set it up so we can just bring back a single one. So that's going to be another field, and this field would be of type channel type, rather than a list of channel types. And we give it a name again. So starting to get used to this syntax. And then we get a resolver. Resolve, and so this time we want to actually provide an argument. We want to say, we want channel 1 or channel 5 or whatever. So we need to pass some arguments in. So let's define the arguments first. So there's an argument type. Oops. Here, so how this works is there's actually an object called query arguments, and we want to create a an instance of that, an instance of query arguments. So you can have multiple arguments, but we're going to have one, and this is going to be an int. So it's actually ID. So it's there's actually a type called ID graph type. So there's that, and it's going to be give it a name when we're going to call it ID. Okay. Now there's another thing we can do here. This has got to be, we don't want to accept a null argument. So what we can do here is we can actually mark this as being a non-nullable type. So we say non-nullable, non-null. Sorry, I'm just checking the notes I've got here. It's non-null graph type. And that marks that as we're going to take an ID type in, so a unique identifier of some sort, and it's got to be a not null value. And then we need to set our resolver up, and the resolver, once again, it's the same pattern as we've seen before. We have a context, and we're going to pass in and we're going to pass into there a variable called ID, and that is going to be, once again, we're going to use the get argument function, and that's going to be an integer that so our identifiers are integers, so we can grab that, and that's going to be called ID, and then we want to actually get that ID, and we've got our repo already, so we can return from the repo. If we look into here, we have a get method already on our repo. So we're going to hit a channel, and the channel we want is going to be the ID. So here we grab into the ID variable our argument, which is called ID, which has been named up here, and we pull it into here, and we use that into our CRUD repository call to get on channel. Now, if you want to look at how that CRUD repository works, then just check out Brendan's GitHub, and you'll see it all explained in there. Okay, well, let's run that up. Is it going to be as simple as that? Let's have a go. So we go. So let's go to our UI playground. We're getting channels back here. So let's remove all that. And the way you do the arguments, you say channel. So we've got the option to do a channel now. I think he puts brackets. Yes, round brackets. ID : 1. And then we need our what we want to bring back, which will be name. So let's try that, and we get dev chatter back. So name, country code, schedule, and start time, end time, day, week, and time zone, and we get just the dev chatter schedule. So I think that is a suitable position to call a close, and we're going just over 2 hours now. So what I'll do is thank you for viewing. It's been great to have some good chat going on, and thank you, Kerry, if you're still in the chat, for the bits, and thank you for the follows for those who followed. We're now 75% of our way into the target, so that's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to find someone to raid. Actually, what we'll do, we'll use Alexa to see if anyone in our database is actually currently on. Alexa, ask live coding. So we just Alexa, Ask live coding. Who is streaming now? I think I've confused it.
Two streamers are broadcasting now. Code Rushed and Codebase Alpha.
Oh, well, there we are. So Alexa's told us that Code Rushed is on. So we'll go and raid Code Rushed. Let's pick up Twitch. Let's do a raid. Code Rushed. Okay, so if you want to stay on this channel, and we will raid Code Rushed in a few seconds. Thank you once again for watching, and please spam Code Rush's chat with emotes. Cheers then.
Duration is not equal to time. What is it? System.threading dot timeout. So we got to do the full path here. System dot thread.